Hello, welcome, and thank you. If you're here, it's probably because you saw some nice aesthetics, maybe? If you did, thank you. I've drawn everything you see here myself. Otherwise, maybe the algorithm helped me out a little bit because I'm not very well known. My name is Fëolnir. That is my fantasy pen name that I use. It is connected to my conlang and has a bit of a deep history involved with it. The meaning is the path of Fëol, or the way of the sap of life. The story behind this name is technically a spoiler, so I can't get really deep into it right now. If you stick around though, and you listen to my stories, you might start to figure it out. Overall, in general, I'm a fantasy writer and illustrator, among many other things. For one thing, I'm an otaku, as my art may indicate. Some of my favorites are Dungeon Meshi, Witch Hat Eþýralýr, Re:Zero, Vinland Saga, Apothecary Diaries. If you watch any of those, you might like some of my stuff. There are definitely elements of each in there. I do also enjoy things like shoujo, though, as well. I feel the need to mention that, because I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate it enough. For example, like Kimi ni Todoke or Honey Lemon Soda, stuff like that. But on the flip side, I'm also a professional historian. I actually have a master's degree. My focus was Norse history, Celtic history, things like that. I wrote my master's thesis in history in 2019, mostly about stolen cheese in an Icelandic saga called Njál Saga, if you know anything about that stuff. If not, you can go look at my other stuff under my other pen name, and you can learn quite a bit there. I've been to several conferences, including some internationally acclaimed ones, like the International Congress of Medieval Studies in Kalamazoo. But the reason I bring this up so much is because these are the things that flavor my writing, and you're going to see a lot of it if you stick around. I do YouTube and podcast under the other pen name, Fëorn, but I do bring this deep academic background to my world building, which is quite in-depth. For instance, I've been world building for as long as I can remember. The earliest documented records I have of it, if I'm going to be a nerdy historian about it, is from 2007, which, it's 2025 now. I've been world building since then, and everything has actually been leading up and building this one world. I actually have a narrative version of the history that I've been working on, which is called Eþýralýr, which is about 26,000 words right now. I only work on it here and there, and I haven't shared it anywhere. But while Tolkien was motivated by language, I'm more motivated by a worldview. So if you want to know what kind of motivates and the forces behind my world building, it's something like a philosophy, maybe a spiritual path. Personally, I think it's a bit complicated, but it is a pretty personal endeavor. I really just do it because I love it. It's one of my ways of discovering more about myself, and kind of one of my ways of applying the things I like and learn about in a different way. All of my stories build upon a greater theme or set of themes based on this selfish attempt to see our own world and existence through a different lens. Essentially, every story I have in mind is building on this great big arc. Everything's connected. Everything's related in some way. Basically, you could say my world building and approach to world building is pretty academic, but I don't write like that. I do try to keep the writing casual, entertaining. I don't want it to feel like you're reading an academic paper, so don't worry about that. But the world building has that richness, I hope, of an academically informed world. I'll let you be the judge of that, though, if you stick around and enjoy my stories. For example, The Tale of Fëor and Erna. That is my web novel that I'm currently writing. I suppose the title's not super creative, but it's the one I've decided to go with. It's set in the middle of the histories that I've been working on. So it's neither the beginning nor the end, but it's a critical point. I'll read a summary. Fëor isn't a fighter. He's an herb-loving homebody who enjoys stories about questing, but prefers a quaint life. He assumed that wouldn't change, until a strange spirit came to his glade. Something about her seemed familiar, but she came from a world he feared. The realm of stories wasn't supposed to be real, after all. Erna hated home. She couldn't be herself there, so she went somewhere her family wouldn't dare follow her. Free at last, she gathers herbs to study and make medicine with help from the land spirits. Except they seem to avoid her. After finally finding someone to help her, she was reminded of a painful reality. She isn't welcome there. Despite being born to a world bent on keeping them apart, something, or someone, brought them together. Regardless of the reason, if there even was a reason, Fëor and Erna only want to help each other grow and be true to themselves. But with a war brewing around them, such a wish is hardly simple. It's sort of a trial story for me, admittedly. It's not really the main story I want to tell, but it is foundational, and it is essentially a prequel. I would say it is a bit of a passion project for sure. I originally wrote it by hand in a journal back in 2021, and it has taken on several forms between now and then. For instance, I actually attempted a manga several times, once in 2023 and again in 2024. I never made it past the first chapter in either one, but I do have some visuals, if you're watching this on YouTube, of what some of that looked like. I still do plan to include special manga in every illustrated volume that I eventually put out. So the web novel is free to read, and each section is meant to be short, about 500 to 1500 words a section. I want it to be easy to read on the go, not too much all at once, unless you just want to have a binge session. Eventually, when I have enough, I do plan to compile the web novel into illustrated volumes, similar to Japanese light novels, and I will illustrate those myself and include bonus content. So, if you're still here and you're still interested, I want to provide a little bit of a background to what the tale of Fëor and Erna is about. The tale of Fëor and Erna takes place in a world called Althrin, during a tumultuous period of history at the end of Eldingaeld, or the Age of Daybreak. It is neither the beginning nor the end of a longer arc of events that unfold throughout the course of Althraean history. I'll be telling those stories too, eventually. In fact, I have written many of them already. This particular moment, however, marks an important turning point. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a map on your screen that should help you. This is the northeast region of Althrin, and it's where most of the story takes place. It shows the two most important provinces of this time period, Pelria to the west and Galenor to the east. These provinces are not on good terms. Pelria, recently united under the rule of King Alinor the Wise, is the most advanced and prosperous kingdom Althrin has yet seen. It is highly urbanized and modern. The capital, Pelrin, is the city drawn under the giant blue tree called Miras. It was the first recorded settlement in Althrin, so it's pretty old and important. Galenor, on the other hand, is an ancient grove filled with nature spirits and folk living simple lives in comparison to their urbanized neighbors. It's still divided into various competing clans that are only loosely unified due to the external threat posed by Pelria. This is where Fëor, mentioned before, comes from. That's the extremely summarized version of events, but that's where things stand historically at the onset of the tale of Fëor and Erna. It's a tense situation between a developing power and a backwards land of magic and spirits. Fëor and Erna, however, are just trying to follow their passions and pursue their own happiness, all while the world around them bears its fangs. Now, here's an updated map. I do keep a map on my website, Fëolnir.com, and I update it as the story unfolds. If you like my story and world building, stick around, see what happens, and maybe you'll see what this project grows into. This podcast and YouTube will start primarily as a place for me to just read my web novel. I'm open to other things though, like talking about fantasy in general, my thoughts on certain topics, and even inviting fellow like-minded creators here to talk with me. I have a lot I want to share, and right now it's free. And I do plan to keep the web novel free and the videos obviously free. I just want to share my story with the world and build a community and hopefully find some people that want to hear it. So again, if you made it this far, please let me know what you think. I'd be very impressed if you made it this far. I've just been kind of rambling. Might be the norm, but thank you. os Eþýrame ori reasun, Valenorin vanarel. It's funny, but actually listening to that recorded, it does sound a bit too Tolkien-esque, doesn't it? I know we studied the same stuff, somewhat, but, whoops.